Hello and welcome to an all-new Perspectives on Consecrated Life. I'm Deacon Pedro. Today we continue exploring the meaning of consecrated life, and to help us out, here are some ideas.
Consecrated life to me is just one of the many calls that God calls different people to.
Those people who have a calling from the Lord to make the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and then to live their lives in community.
God calls you to be entirely His own, just in the same way that a couple gets married to each other, that God has sort of exclusively said, I wish to be directly in contact with you in a spousal relationship.
It's a way of finding a kind of freedom to live the Spirit of Jesus in the church today.
It's about living together, working together, and proclaiming the message, the gospel together.
It's a life lived exclusively for Jesus.
Called to be a child of God and to serve God, to serve His people in love.
We are to be the smiling sign of the hope that is God.
To go sell what you have, follow me, and try to become perfect. Try.
Those were some thoughts by some men, women, priests, and religious from the Diocese of Hamilton, Ontario. And to help us continue exploring the meaning of consecrated life, I am now joined by the Bishop of Hamilton, Bishop Douglas Crosby. Bishop, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Deacon Pedro.
So
happy to be here.
Yes, happy to have you here. Before we start diving into the meaning of consecrated life, I always like to ask priests, bishops about their vocation story. How old were you when you started thinking about the priesthood?
I was probably in elementary school.
Really?
And, an altar server in my little community. I grew up in a small town in northwestern Ontario called Marathon. And there was a small Catholic community there, and we were part of it, and our family was a pretty faithful church-going family, and I served the Mass, and of course, some very attractive things. And I'll tell you, one day a missionary came through, an Oblate missionary.
Okay.
And he did a parish mission in Marathon. And because we were altar servers, we participated. We participated in the Mass and helped out. And so we listened to the entire mission. And also he invited the young women on one day and the young men on another day to talk about vocation. And really that was I think that's where the seed was planted.
And you were in elementary school at this point?
I was in elementary.
Really?
Yeah, probably grade 6 or 7.
So the seed was planted there?
That's right.
And during your adolescence, did you kind of stay focused on that?
No. But what did happen was the Oblate community, the vocation director, that missionary, sent a newsletter, a monthly newsletter, letting us know about religious life and the missionaries and the various missions that the Oblates served. And so we were always regularly over the year, maybe we got 10 a year, say there were 10, there might have been 8 or 9, but regularly that seed was watered.
Yeah.
And so when it came time at the end of high school to say, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my life? I was thinking of law. I was thinking of Western University.
Yeah.
And I also had the thought in my mind, I have to do something about this priesthood. I prayed a lot around that time, and I decided, well, I'm going to give it a year. I'm going to give it a year. And I wrote 2 letters. I wrote one to the Diocese of Thunder Bay, which is where I grew up, and I wrote one to the Oblates. And the Oblates responded quickly, and so I went to the Oblate Novitiate. That's how, and giving it 1 year.
Yeah, interesting.
Giving it 1 year.
Interesting. Now, do you think that that pull or that tug was more to the Oblates as missionaries or to the priesthood in general, or both?
I think it was a call to a missionary vocation. And the Oblates have been involved in missions everywhere. Northern Canada.
Yeah.
The Oblates from our particular province were very involved at that time in Latin America. And some of our men had gone to South Africa. And so there seemed to be so many opportunities,
right.
which was very, you know, when you're a young fellow, it's very attractive to think, well,
adventure.
The world is my, you know,
yes,
playground in a way.
Yes.
And so I was attracted to that and signed up.
Yeah.
Signed up for the novitiate.
So these are the Oblates of Mary Immaculate.
The missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate. It's an order that's about 170 years old, 170, 180 years old. Bishop Eugene de Mazenod was the founder of the order, southern France. The headquarters are in Rome. There would be probably 3,000, 4,000 oblates in the world right now. And it was a very important religious community for the opening up of Western Canada in particular, and the north.
And the north, yeah, they pretty much brought the church to the north of Canada.
North of Canada, that's right.
I know. Were the oblates in your diocese, or this priest came, he was a visiting priest?
No, as a matter of fact, the parish was always served by diocesan priests. They invited the oblates. The oblates did parish missions across the country in various parishes here and there. And this priest happened to come at that time. Father McGanity, his name was, Father Brendan McGanity, a wonderful man, and long gone to God now. And he was really inspirational.
Yeah. Now maybe I can quickly ask you, since it kind of relates, was Thunder Bay at the time, or now, is it considered a missionary diocese?
I don't think now.
No.
But there are areas in the diocese which are
mission territory.
Mission territory. Marathon wouldn't be considered particularly missionary, but it was far removed from Thunder Bay.
And how does the church define a mission territory or a mission diocese?
Well, I think a parish that, well, one way would be a parish that can't sustain itself.
Okay.
You know, so you need help from outside to make a go of it. In northern parts of the country, it's very difficult because the population, you just don't have the population base.
Yeah.
So, but Marathon at that time was a pulp and paper town, and a thriving pulp and paper town. Now a gold mine town. So it was able to manage. It wouldn't be considered a mission, but the oblates would have done retreats, you know, parish missions we call them, and in that sense, this man was a missionary, and he was bringing the gospel, sharing the gospel, proclaiming the gospel in the community.
And it worked.
Well, it worked in my case.
It worked. Now, so you joined the Oblates. You're, in essence, it's not this, well, you can correct me, but it's not like going to seminary. You're, in essence, joining a religious congregation right off the bat.
You are not. It's not immediate. You know, the first thing you do is a novitiate year.
Yes.
And it's really a year of serious discernment. Now, I was young. I was 19, 20. There were 17 of us in the novitiate at that time, and
all Canadian.
All Canadian.
Yeah.
There was a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm around it, and you know, we were all pretty intense about being religious and being good religious and all of that. And it was a good year. It was a very
at the
happy
time
year.
At the time you're discerning, are you discerning? I suppose you're discerning everything, but you're just because the priesthood is not the same call as the missionary call.
You know, within the oblates we have brothers as well who will do other work. They might be teachers. They might be you know.
But they're not ordained.
But they're not ordained.
Yeah.
But there's also the ordained ministry. You take vows. You take temporary vows for a certain number of years of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and then at some point you take final vows, and that is your commitment to religious life. And that would be like getting married. You're making the commitment at that point, and then subsequently you continue your studies in theology, and you are ordained a priest.
So the community would help you discern, or the individuals discern whether they're being called to the priesthood.
That's
and
correct.
That would be almost like a separate thing.
That's correct.
Yeah, interesting. We're going to take a little break. We're speaking with Bishop Douglas Crosby of the Diocese of Hamilton, speaking, of course, about consecrated life, but it's a short break, so don't go anywhere.
I'm Father Wayne Lobsinger. I'm the pastor of St. Thomas the Apostle Parish in Waterdown, and I'm the vicar for Consecrated Life for the Diocese of Hamilton. My role is to represent the bishop with the various religious communities of the diocese. So to show the bishop's concern and care, and also in some ways his leadership over the religious communities of the diocese. So for the religious priests, the Resurrectionist Fathers, the Franciscans, Jesuits, and the religious sisters and brothers, to show that care the bishop has for them and to be that extra line of support for the religious in our diocese. Hamilton is actually the second largest English-speaking diocese in Canada, by population anyhow. And yet up until very recently, I think we've always thought of ourselves as a little place. And we've relied very much on religious priests and the religious sisters for the functioning of the diocese. We have 13 religious congregations of women and 13 religious congregations of men, totaling 312 religious. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. Today's event was a new event we've never had before. It's in response to the Year for Consecrated Life, to thank the religious for their work in the diocese. The religious enjoyed the night immensely. The spirit was unbelievable. They were so happy to be with each other because they never have a chance to do that, to just come together as those in consecrated life and to just share that aspect of their lives, which is different from a diocesan priest's life. When you look at the history, the first to come were the Franciscans and then the Jesuits. And that really was the foundation. Even in our own diocese, many of our very first parishes were served by religious communities until the diocese itself really came into being and developed its own clergy. The St. Joseph sisters, if it wasn't for them, we would have no hospitals. If it wasn't for the Notre Dame sisters, our school system would be almost nothing. High school systems and seminaries has been the Resurrectionist Fathers who have run those in our diocese. And so without them, we would be in sorry shape, nowhere near the great diocese we are.
Those were some comments by Father Wayne Lobsinger. He's the vicar for Consecrated Life for the Diocese of Hamilton at an event that the diocese organized, I guess, to celebrate and thank all the religious communities, all the religious members in the diocese because of the Year for Consecrated Life. And I want to ask you about that, but first I'm curious about this role of vicar. I don't know if all dioceses would have a vicar for Consecrated Life, but why is it important to have someone whose job is specifically to be, I guess, well, maybe you can tell me what the job is.
That's right, exactly. I decided that because of the Year of Consecrated Life, and because we have so many members of Consecrated Life in the diocese, that it would be a good thing to have somebody on our, what we call our Episcopal board. It's a board of about 6 priests in the diocese, and the auxiliary bishop, who sit with me and we reflect on the life of the diocese and make decisions about the directions that we want to promote and nurture in the diocese. So it's important to have somebody who has say the interest and the focus of religious, and who can represent the diocese to the religious communities and the concerns of the religious communities to the diocese. So Father Wayne has had a very long involvement in religious communities, with religious communities supporting the vocations of women religious in the diocese in one way or another. And I thought he would be a very good help for us on that.
Now this might be semantics, and so you can tell me if it is, but vicar for Consecrated Life as opposed to vicar for religious life. Well, what's the difference?
We have in the diocese also a consecrated virgin, whose life is she doesn't belong to a religious community.
Okay, so that's
so but she's consecrated as well. And so consecrated life is not simply religious life. It's somebody who's consecrating their life to the Lord in one way or another, whether they're a member of a religious community or more.
Right.
So we use the term consecrated life as opposed to religious life.
Yeah. Now you said, and so did Father Wayne, that your diocese has, there are a lot of religious communities. I don't know if you would say that you rely on the religious communities.
Well, we do.
For your parishes, your hospitals, schools, maybe.
We not so much for schools anymore, and hospitals are really in the beginning. The religious built the hospitals and built the schools and ran them, and I mean the diocese really is grateful to the religious communities for what they did in establishing the church. And in particular, those important institutions in our diocese, the Sisters of St. Joseph, the School Sisters of Notre Dame, really gave themselves. The Congregation of the Resurrection in Kitchener-Waterloo area built St. Jerome University and staffed it. In the Diocese of Hamilton, this is true in dioceses throughout Canada, but in the Diocese of Hamilton we have, you know, elementary Catholic schools, we have high schools, and we have Catholic University, which is those are all very important institutions in the diocese. And at the healthcare level, we have 5 major healthcare centers in Hamilton, in Guelph, in Kitchener-Waterloo, in Dundas, and Brantford.
Yeah,
you know, those are important. Those are important institutions that we continue to use to benefit from.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, they serve thousands of people every day.
Now, you're the bishop. You're the diocesan bishop, so you're responsible for, I guess, your diocesan priests. But the members of the religious community are also part of the diocese. So, but you're not their superior. So, tell me a little bit about that relationship between a diocesan bishop and the religious community, or the consecrated people in your diocese.
Good, very good. We do meet often with the religious superiors, and it's with the religious superiors that we will discuss the needs of the diocese.
Okay.
And they will be able to say, well, we can help you here, or we can help you here, or what about this sister for a job here? So they will present individuals, and we will assign them. So the Congregation of the Resurrection, for example, will say, we have priests, and we are interested in staffing parishes, and so here's Father so-and-so for St. Francis of Assisi Parish in Kitchener.
Yeah.
And the bishop then appoints a father as pastor of the parish on the recommendation of the superior. And so that's how it works. They are committed to their religious community. They are committed to their provincial, if you want, their superior, for matters of the life of their community, but they are responsible to the bishop for matters related to the operation of the parish.
Now, how does it work for a bishop? So you're a diocesan bishop, but you're also a member of a religious community. Once you are named a bishop, how does your responsibility to your superior in your community, how does that change?
Yes, it changes very much, as a matter of fact. You remain a religious. I remain an Oblate of Mary Immaculate, and you'll notice even when I sign my name, I still put OMI at the end of the
Yes.
However, I don't participate in the life of the community in the same way. Now, fortunately, in Hamilton, there are other oblates, and so we do get together for meals, for maybe particular anniversaries that the oblates like to gather and pray and eat and just enjoy one another's presence. And so it's not like you're thrown out of the community, but you're a member of the community. But I have enough responsibility. They don't expect me to participate in. They're happy if I do, but they don't expect it. And then when time for retirement comes, as bishop, you know, they welcome you home.
Right. So
you can go back home and pick up where you left off.
Yeah, we heard at the beginning of the show, a lot of the people in the clip mentioned that community life is integral to that consecrated life. That as a bishop, could you choose to still live in community?
Well, you know, as a matter of fact, in Hamilton, I do have an oblate, retired oblate priest who lives with me in the community.
Right.
And there's a young oblate priest who's pastor in a couple of the parishes in Hamilton, and he lives there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a little bit of an oblate community, and they're good support. And it means that at the end of the day, you don't go home alone.
Alone, yeah.
And
it's difficult for a bishop.
And they're there,
especially.
and we can, you know, they're there. We can pray together.
Mm-hmm.
We can eat meals together. We can celebrate together, and they're very good support.
Yeah, it's good that you have that. A lot of people are confused, I think, sometimes about, you know, aren't we all consecrated, certainly by virtue of our baptism, and maybe to certain degrees, and I think that canonically, the church defines consecrated life in terms of the virtues and in terms of that community life. But as a bishop, and if you were not member of a religious community, would a bishop not be consecrated in the same way, or how would you explain that to someone?
Sure. A bishop is, I mean, the ordination is a consecration of sorts. You're set aside for,
yes.
I mean, that's what consecration means. You're set aside for special duties or sacred duties, if you want. Mm-hmm. And so a bishop certainly is. A priest is, a deacon is, and
yes.
you'd know that yourself. Yes. It's a consecration. Mm-hmm. But I think the idea of the community, the call to community, the serving as a community, even beyond serving for special needs, you know, going to missions. The life of a diocesan bishop is to care for a certain area in the church, mm-hmm. the diocese. Mm-hmm. And so that is my duty now, and it's the Diocese of Hamilton, which is a wonderful place, a wonderful yes. experience, and in a sense, it is the mission for me now.
Right.
When I was a young priest, my first mission was I was sent to the north. I was sent to Labrador, and I loved it. And when I was a young bishop, I was still a missionary bishop because I was sent to the north. I love the north. It was a great experience. So this is a new challenge, a new mission, and a sense a new gift.
Yeah.
A new gift in terms of ministry, and for which I'm grateful.
That's great. So you're still doing mission and it's still service. Maybe just in closing, since we're talking about consecrated life, how would you define consecrated life?
Well, as I just said,
yeah,
I think it's the vows, first of all. Mm-hmm. Why do we ever take these vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience? And what does it mean? The way I can say it as simply as possible, it means no distractions. Mm-hmm. You know, poverty, the three big challenges in life are always around money, sex, and power. Mm-hmm. And so poverty, chastity, and obedience try to address that in a very concrete way, a very real way. Yeah. No distractions. Our focus is supposed to be the Lord and the mission that the Lord entrusts to us, and a total giving over to that, and trying not to be distracted by these other temptations.
Yeah.
Life is life, and the challenges, those challenges are real. But the way I look at it is no distractions. You try to give yourself totally to the mission.
Yeah, and then you're also a witness to the rest of us who have to also manage with those three.
No,
yeah, it's true.
It's part of. I mean, we're all in a sense called. Yeah.
Yeah.
Called to give ourselves as totally as we can to the Lord.
Well, good. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for the work that you do, and for coming to visit us today. It's great having you here.
Thank you for the invitation. It's been a pleasure.
We've been speaking with Bishop Douglas Crosby. He's the Bishop of the Diocese of Hamilton in Ontario. You can find out more about what he's doing and what his diocese is all about at their website, hamiltondiocese.com. And also write to us. Tell us what your vocation story is, or what questions you might have about consecrated life. You can reach us via Facebook, facebook.com/saltandlighttv, or via Twitter @saltandlighttv. Thank you for being with us, and may God continue to bless you and your home.